Hola y bienvenidos al video de subject pronouns ser y adjetivos. We're going to start with the subject of subject pronouns. Subject pronouns are words that we use in the place of names to tell who is doing the action in a sentence. You are familiar with the 7 subject pronouns in English: I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. There are also many subject pronouns in the Spanish language. They correspond more or less to the English subject pronouns, and that's what we're going to be concentrating on today. Before we go any further, though, I want to talk about singular and plural. Some subject pronouns that you're familiar with, like I, he, she, and it, are singular. They refer to one person. Some subject pronouns, like we and they, are plural, meaning that they refer to groups of people. And one subject pronoun, you, can be either singular or plural. I can ask a single person, hey, can you help me? Or I could ask a group of people, hey, can you help me? It just depends on who I'm talking to. Here are the subject pronouns in Spanish. Yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros and nosotras, vosotros and vosotras, ellos, ellas, and ustedes. Most of these are really easy to understand. Yo means I, él means he, ella means she. But there are a few that I'd like to highlight. One of them is tú and usted. We've talked about tú and usted before, and you should know already that they both mean you. But tú means you informal. This is the one that you use with your parents, your brothers and sisters, your friends, close family members. Usted, on the other hand, is formal. This is the one that you would use if you were addressing Mr. Grana or Mr. Murphy, your other teachers, or any other adult that you need to show respect to, or as an adult, other adults that you don't know very well or that you need to show respect to, like your boss. I also want to talk about why there are two for we, for you all, and for they. The reason that there are is that these are groups of people. Nosotros and nosotras both mean we. I would use nosotras if the entire group that I was talking about were all girls, all female. Otherwise, I would use nosotros. So if it's a group of all guys, it's nosotros. If it's a group that has guys and girls both, it's still nosotros. Remember, Spanish derives from a patriarchal society, so masculine always wins. Vosotros and vosotras are interesting. Again, it's vosotras if the entire group that you're talking to is girls, and it's vosotros if the entire group you're talking to is guys, or if it's a mixed group. Vosotros and vosotras both mean you all. So I'm talking to a group and saying, hey, can all of you help me? But it's only used in Spain. And in Spain, it's informal, so you would use it with people that you know pretty well. It's not used anywhere other than Spain, however. If you want to talk to a whole big group, whether formally or informally, in any other country, you're going to use ustedes. Ustedes, again, just like vosotros, means you all, but it's a group, it's plural. So if I wanted to say, can you all help me? I would say, ustedes pueden ayudarme. I would start with ustedes. Ellos and ellas both mean they. Ellos is for a group that is either mixed or all male. Ellas is for a group that's female. Let's try saying these out loud. We'll go in order. Repiten por favor. Yo. Tú. Él. Ella. Usted. Nosotros. Nosotras. Vosotros. Vosotras. Ellos. Ellas. Ustedes. You will need to memorize these subject pronouns before your next quiz or test. It is very important that you know them since they are going to help you conjugate every verb that we do this year, and there are many of them. The job of a subject pronoun is to work with a verb. When we write a sentence, we have to have a verb, and it has to work with our subject pronoun. For example, I would say, I am Mrs. Curtis, or I would actually say, I am Ms. Luther. I wouldn't say, I are Ms. Luther, because I and are don't go together. I wouldn't say I is Mrs. Luther because, again, I and is don't go together. It works the same way in Spanish. Yo can only go with certain verbs. We talked yesterday about yo going with soy. So if I wanted to say I am Mrs. Curtis, I would say yo soy Señora Curtis. Yo is built into the soy. That's because soy can only work with yo. That's not true for all of them though, and we'll see that in a second. So the first verb we're going to learn this year is ser. Ser means to be. But in English we know I don't say I be, you be, he be, she be. We conjugate it. I am, you are, he is, she is. All conjugation means, it's a big fancy word for change the verb to match the subject pronoun. That's all we're doing. In Spanish, we change the verb in every single box to match the pronoun. So yo has to go with soy, yo soy. Tu has to go with eres, tú eres. Es, which means is usually in English, actually goes with 3 different subject pronouns. That's why I always have to write the subject pronoun when I'm using as, or almost always, because otherwise it gets confusing. So if I want to say he is, I say él es. If I want to say she is, I say ella es. If I want to say you are, told you there's an exception to the rule, I would say usted es. I know it literally means you is, but it is correct in Spanish. For nosotros and nosotras, we use somos. It doesn't matter if I'm using nosotros or nosotras, it's still somos. For vosotros and vosotras, again, remember this is only used in Spain, but I would use sois. Vosotros sois. And it's the same even though vosotros and vosotras are different. For ellos, ellas, and ustedes, they are and you are, plural you, I'm going to use son. And again, since there's 3 different subject pronouns, I have to put the subject pronoun with the form of ser, with the son. Ellos son is they are if it's a group of males or a mixed group. Ellas son is they are if the group's all female. And ustedes son is you all are. And again, that's used everywhere but Spain, and in Spain it's used for formal groups. So, ¿cómo se dice he? Él, muy bien. She? Ella, muy bien. They? Ellos or ellas, depending on your group. Mixed group or all male, ellos. Female group, ellas. Let's talk about adjectives now. We learned before that nouns have gender. Some nouns are feminine, some nouns are masculine. Adjectives have gender too, but adjectives in general can be both masculine and feminine. And the only way to tell the difference is to look at their ending. When the adjective's in a masculine form, it usually ends with O, and it's used with masculine nouns. El chico aburrido. If it's feminine, then it ends in an A, and it's used to describe feminine nouns. La chica aburrida. Aburrido and aburrida both mean boring. But I use aburrido with an O for a boy, chico, and aburrida for a girl, chica. Some adjectives, like inteligente, end in an E. These are great because it doesn't matter if your noun is masculine or feminine. It's gender neutral. I can use inteligente with either one. So, el chico es inteligente or la chica es inteligente. Doesn't matter because it ends in an E. Paciente, sociable, they work the same way. We have one adjective, trabajador, that ends in DOR. Adjectives that end in DOR are masculine. The feminine form ends in DORA. Think Dora from Dora the Explorer. So I would say el chico es trabajador, but I would say la chica es trabajadora. Remember Dora. Then we have our special case, deportista. Deportista means sporty or athletic, and it ends in an A, and we didn't have an O with it. That's because it doesn't matter if it's a guy who is sporty or athletic or a girl who is sporty or athletic. Deportista stays the same. It's one of the few adjectives that ends in an A that does this. So I would say el chico es deportista or la chica es deportista. Because it's so unusual, you have to memorize this one. Well, that's all there is to it. You really need to memorize your subject pronouns, and you really need to memorize the forms of ser. You should be able to say, yo soy, tú eres, él, ella, usted, es, nosotros, nosotras, somos, vosotros, 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 vosotras sois, ellos, ellas, ustedes son, just as fast as I just did by Friday. Good luck. Buen estudioso.